If you want to know whether or not you have been lied to, if you can't see anything wrong with the side you agree with, and you can't see anything right with the side that you disagree with, you have been manipulated. There's so many psyops that are happening all the time. Some of them, when you say psyops, a really, really good infomercial is a psyop.
Right.
So what we're talking about is the large scale.
Right.
Did you know I was personally dragged into the whistleblowing about the sexual abuse, trafficking of vulnerable women at the nonprofit organization with a false accusation by the female central to my story? I had support from some famous people like...
One man told me about being beaten by the police and left permanently disabled because of a woman's false allegation.
Everything has to be scripted, fake. That way the narratives and the outcomes are controlled. Hello, it's October 2025. Now this video is inspired by several different topics, and really the focus is going to be on something that I discussed several years ago on how people have changed since the events that began in 2020. And there's many people speculating this and that. It was because something was taken, something wasn't taken, or whatever, even trauma, which is probably very accurate. People have changed very much, and people are getting sucked into all these literal psyops, left, right, and center on different levels. Like take, for example, this whole event with Charlie Kirk, which I did a couple of videos about, and how people are just going crazy over this topic. And now everyone's speculating, just like they did with John F. Kennedy, JFK, and what happened with him, and people are just going nuts trying to figure things out, forgetting that they're relying on their limited knowledge basis and whatever perceived evidence that they may have, which is from online. And I'm just going to interject here real quick. We have to also remember that AI is a big problem now, because it can create or even manipulate videos to suit whatever it is that the person using it wants. So even nowadays, we can't even rely on any videos that were released, whether they be from official sources or independent sources. What really can be trusted? But now I digress. So I was talking before on this topic with Charlie Kirk, for example, how the why behind it all. It doesn't matter if it was real, if it was staged, if it was a staged real event, what direction that the projectile traveled. None of it matters, because this event meets literally all the elements of an actual psyop. For example, somebody had asked, well, if somebody wanted him out, they could have just did it, quietly behind, say, closed doors, or did it another way, and it would have been all over. But the whole point is, one of the elements of a actual psyop, and even, for example, when you look at when people rant on about MK Ultra, one of the biggest things that's used is trauma. There was an event with Charlie Kirk that was being streamed live, and people had witnessed what took place live. Again, I'm not getting into if it was real or not or anything else. That's not the point, because they needed that trauma base. They wanted to traumatize as many people as they could with that event. That's why it was done the way it is, and now they're elevating him to a messiah level all around the world. Now, I'm not taking away anything from Charlie Kirk or his family or anything else. That is not the point here, because people have been asking and have discussed this, hinted at it, whatever you want to call it. So then what's really going on? Well, the first thing you have to look at is what's been going on all around the world. Every single nation is crumbling from within. due to open invitations from perceived elected leaders. Now I'm word crafting, and I'm going to be word crafting a lot here, so just bear with me. And we see every single nation falling. Now this is important to think about, because everything's happening simultaneously. There's nothing that's standing alone here. So all the nations of the world are falling, and people are upset and, you know, being very emotional. This is another example of creating trauma. But how does this all tie in with this event that took place with Charlie Kirk? Well, you have to understand that since that event took place, many people apparently are turning towards one specific religion with the cross. Now I'm word crafting, so that's why I'm talking the way I am. And these people are going to that religion who has this Messiah because of what happened. So they're linking Charlie Kirk to this religion. Now there's a lot of controversy behind all that. That's not the point. When you look at what's taking place in a part of the world where there's a very controversial war going on, and how they've been losing support, the ones who, I'm just trying to think of a description, maybe instigated all this that's happening now. They're losing support even by the religion that they've been counting on to support them, because their religion basically gave it to them for a reason. So this event with Charlie Kirk has resurrected and will resurrect the support for their efforts. Right or wrong, that's not the point. Now, why is this important to know? Because the ones that, again, using this descriptive, had instigated what's happening now with this war, in their religion, their belief system, their nation is going to be the light of the world, to guide the world. You can't do that if the rest of the world, for example, is prospering and everyone's happy and everything else. So you have to take down everything around to be the light, to say, look it, we have the answers, or whatever it is, doesn't matter. And really this is what this whole thing's all about. But people are buying in to this psyop event that has a lot of questions, even to the people who, whether it be family members, friends, or people who know or knew of him or supported him, when they talk about the tragedy that took place. There's a lot of questions, we'll just say. Now, I'm going to segue just for a moment here. Originally, there was an older gentleman who they took in, saying that we got the person who did it. That person said no. They verified that they didn't do it. But then they had this other person, Robinson, who has never even admitted to anyone. What we're told is to the father, who's a police officer, who told someone else, and anyway, that's how that came about. But there's a lot of articles saying that he's not cooperating with, for example, authorities, confessing to him doing it. But now, what appears to be happening is he's saying, I didn't do it. Which really means that he's saying that he's a patsy, just like this older guy. Now, did he know exactly what was going to happen? Maybe, maybe not. Perhaps he was told to do certain things, not really understanding the full scope of what was going to happen. So, I mean, that's a whole different matter. And, you know, if he did know about it, then obviously he's an accomplice. But if he didn't, well, then that changes the whole dynamics of everything. Now, a lot of commoners are not going to understand all this because I'm just simplified some legal perspectives here. And people are buying into that psyop. So we have all this going on and people are just eating it up, trying to figure it out, where it's not complicated. People are complicating the uncomplicated. And then we have this whole ostrich farm in British Columbia, Canada, which is the most comical clown show ever. Because this latest event there, they had the federal police in Canada, they're called the RCMP, coming in, and you know, they had these people who were going to take down these ostriches finally, and the very last second something came up and it didn't happen. It's a show, and there's people throwing money at them and buying into this nonsense. Now, how does this all tie in with people have changed? Well, not only have people changed in their character, but it really seems like people have changed, for example, in accepting, what's a descriptive I can use, stupidity that's being played out. And there's a sliver in the middle. We're looking all around at these events and all sides going, man, this is all messed up. Sit back or stand back and just get some popcorn and watch the show unfold. And this is what is happening in the world. But when it comes to people changing, people, for example, who were, and I'm not the only one saying this, there's so many people even discussing this in their content, how people have changed. They're looking around like, what's going on? People have been saying this for the past 3-4 years. The people that in their lives have changed. And now we see all these different psyops. So whatever the change is that have changed people, it's also made them more like Plato, so they can be more easily influenced and guided, misdirected, and everything else, and willing to drink new flavors of Kool-Aid being introduced. And that's really my whole point. People of the world have changed, and not just in your country, but all countries around the world. And we have all these psyops. We have, for example, we have one on an international level with Charlie Kirk now, and then we have local ones, like for example in Canada with this ostrich farm. And no one's ever stopping to think, well, what about the 5 million chickens that were culled? No one cares about the chickens, but maybe around 400 ostriches people care about. It's a show. And there was a comment by one of the people who are supporting this saying, hey, if you like this content, meaning that he's covering this ostrich farm fiasco, you know, let him know. He'll continue doing it and like and comment and everything else. He's saying that, hey, yeah, I'm doing this because it's getting me views and it's getting me whatever it is that he wants. Perhaps, you know, maybe his stuff is monetized. I don't know. But right there, it tells you that this whole thing is just a show. But if you've known somebody in your life, directly or indirectly, that has changed, you know, maybe share that in the comment section below. It would be interesting to hear. There's a lot of people who find themselves isolated, for example, who maybe are struggling, thinking that they're going crazy, but they're not. The world has gone more crazy. Anyway, just things to think about. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share.
And this person is starting to picture how it could have happened. And what could have been turns into what would have been, turns into what was.
So by the third interview, the memory has taken hold. And it wasn't just this once. Shaw was able to convince over 70% of participants that they committed a crime.
I was incredibly surprised at the rate that I had in terms of successfully implanting these false memories.
False memory studies like this question one of the cornerstones of the criminal justice system.
In those hundreds of cases where DNA testing has proven that these individuals were wrongly convicted, about 3/4 of the time, the convictions were based on faulty eyewitness testimony.
After 9 years, you know what I realized? Ignorance is bliss.
Just remember, I was one man against many. Fighting a losing battle, but I still fought to the end.
That means press on. That means endure. That means God cannot fail, and you're not going to give up. That's not an option for a child of God. This means you are going to be remembered. Listen to this and write it down if you can't remember it. You're never going to outgrow warfare. You simply must learn to fight. I hear people saying to me, when is it going to get easier? When you die.